Hello guys, I'm Shubham and I welcome you to my channel and I hope you're doing fantastic. Today we are going to talk about a movie Inferno and I think it has a relevance to the current situation of COVID-19 because this movie deals with a virus. There is still relevance even if the movie was released in 2016. This movie is basically based on Dan Brown novel Inferno and Ron Howard has directed this film and he started the story with a weird philosophy of life and its consequences in coming future. This man is Bertrand Zobrist and he is a billionaire and he is the one who is conducting this seminar explaining the future problems of overpopulation. Now his thoughts are really disturbing because he was suggesting mass killing of about a half population in this world to maintain the balance and to avoid extinction of humans. Well, now we are thinking this guy is weird, but next we will see how dangerous this guy was and how exactly he had planned everything to execute his murderous intentions. In the very next scene, we see Zobrist running away from police and he ends up on a tall tower. Now there was no way to run and that's why he was stuck because police had circled him from behind and they were asking him about something very dangerous and important. But Zobrist was far more determined not to tell a word about that something and he jumps from the tower and commits suicide just to keep his secret to himself. In the next scene, we see Professor Robert Langdon who was badly injured. He was hospitalized in Florence but he had no idea how he got there. Robert was having dangerous visions where he could see people suffering with agonizing pain and they are getting burned. Some people have inverted head and because of these visions, he feels really weird but that makes him conscious. When he was awake, he sees himself in a hospital in Florence, which is in Italy, and he also was feeling excruciating pain because of his head injury. Another character takes her place here and her name was Dr. Sienna Brooks. She informs Robert that a bullet has passed from very near to him and that was the reason of Robert's injury. A couple of centimeters here and there and it would have caused a great tragedy for Robert. Robert doesn't recall any of this but Sienna also has an explanation for it. She said because of this injury, Robert was facing retrograde amnesia and that's why he has a short-term memory loss. During this checkup, a trained assassin Vayanta enters the hospital and starts shooting hospital staff. Sienna takes Robert away from her and get into a taxi but Robert was really in a bad shape. His visions were still haunting him and now he was seeing a woman whose face was covered with a cloth and there was a building from where enormous amount of blood was flowing. Because of these overwhelming visions, Robert again loses his consciousness. After that, Sienna took him to her house. Disturbed Sienna starts throwing a bundle of questions on Robert but because of his amnesia, he could not even answer a single damn question which was really frustrating for him. Completely clueless Sienna then suggests calling US consulate but Robert stops her from doing so. Robert requests coffee from Sienna and when she was making it, he uses this time to check his emails from her computer and he finds a mail from a man named Ignacio. That mail was saying something like, I'm safe and they are after me too and the stolen thing is safe in Paradise 25. Well, this was clearly a non-understanding mail for Robert. In the very next scene, along with Robert, we see one guy standing in the room and one snake bite him dead. This was really shocking for Robert, but a minute later, he understands that he was hallucinating. Not just this scene, but all of the weird things that he had seen in his recent past was all part of these hallucinations. Sienna offers him some clothes which belonged to her boyfriend when Robert was taking a shower. In his old coat, Robert finds a pointer which was actually a biotube. Now this biotube is used to transmit dangerous substances and it had symbol of WHO on it, which meant it was a government property. When Sienna finds it with Robert, she was quite afraid of it. When Robert suggested opening it, Sienna refused to cooperate and so they end up kind of fighting with each other, but ultimately Robert convinces Sienna to let him open the biotube. When he opens it, he finds a Faraday pointer which was showing Dante's 9 circles of hell. For your information, Dante Alighieri was an Italian author and he had conducted a deep research about stages of hell and he had published a book about it. When Robert and Sienna opens the tube, they find the same diagram of hell. Along with the diagram, they also find some letters printed on the diagram and one such word was spelled Zobrist. Now guys, if you recall, Zobrist was the same man who had started this story with a weird philosophy of mass killing half of the population. Now in further story, we will get to know why Zobrist's name was on that diagram. Well, on the other hand, Robert and Sienna did not know anything about Zobrist and they start to search about it on internet and they find Zobrist. Along with him, Robert and Sienna also came to find out about his weird theory and his one reference of 13th century's pandemic of plague, which wiped almost half population of the world. Robert and Sienna understand a glimpse of his plan and they also assumed there can be such connection of virus on carrying out this mass killing. After this understanding, Robert calls US consulate and informs them about the information that he had, and in return US consulates ask about his location. Robert intentionally tells them a wrong but nearby location so that he could observe consulate's reaction through his window. Guys, here we see the same assassin Voyanta who had attacked them in the hospital. On the other hand, WHO officials also track location of Robert because he had accessed his email from the apartment, and they sent a strike team. Because of good view from their room, Sienna spots these officials in black van and they decide to run from the place, but their sneaking out effort was not that effective and Voyanta spots them leaving. Sienna rents a car immediately to get away from so many unfamiliar faces, but still Voyanta was following them. Here, WHO Chief Elizabeth Sinsky was really upset because they had lost Robert, and because she knew catching Robert again would not be that easy. In a car with Sienna, Robert had quite a discussion with her and she had her suspicions about Robert. Sienna actually accused Robert of being a follower of Zobrist and that he wanted to spread the deadly plague virus just to wipe the half population out, and that is the reason why government and WHO officials are trying to find him. Robert genuinely says that he doesn't know Zobrist for sure. In the next scene, we see Voyanta speaking to her superiors and we come to find out Voyanta works for Harry Sims, whose role was played by talented Irfan Khan. Irfan Khan was also running an institution named the Consortium, and its business was very shady. Consortium basically carries out businesses of personnel who can't carry their agenda by themselves. This so-called institution was actually illegal and even non-existing and definitely not supported by government. That was the reason Consortium's office was on a big cruise. His one employee carries message from Voyanta to Harry informing him about WHO and government's involvement in tracking down Robert. It was too much to handle for Harry because it was quite difficult to understand their involvement in such a small operation of catching Robert. So guys, here is one fact. Actually, Zobrist was one of the clients of Consortium and he had handed Harry a video which was to be published on a particular day and particular time. But because of these involvements, Harry suspects a foul play and he opens the video a day before its actual publishing date. In that video, Zobrist had clearly mentioned about his crazy and weird philosophies of wiping half of the population out for straight 6 days. In the video, he said the plague virus has been released last night to save humanity from extinction. But guys, Zobrist did not understand that killing billions of people to save billions of people is actually not the way. But thank God, Harry had opened the video a day before its publishing date, so he knew that plague virus is going to be released tonight. He understands whatever his institution is doing is absolutely inhuman, and that's why he tries to do something to save humanity from this disaster. Robert and Sienna were still on the treasure hunt of finding the meanings of the clues they were chasing, and according to which they arrive at a museum. Here they see a lot of police officers, and to save themselves from getting caught, they chose to sneak in, but police had resources and their drones capture them. Robert and Sienna finds a secret door and they get inside that museum. Voyanta, on the other hand, got a message from Harry to recover Faraday pointer at any cost and kill Robert in the process. Whereas in the museum, Robert again starts hallucinating and he gets stronger visions this time. He feels enormous amount of pain on his neck as if someone had injected him with something. When asked by Sienna, he says in recent days he had been in a taxi and someone had injected him with something. Robert thinks those people must have injected him with the virus, but Sienna here makes him understand if he had been injected, then all of the people around him, including him, would be dead by now. So both of them drop this thought. Their discussion was interrupted by someone named Martha, who was actually a friend of Robert, but Robert doesn't recognize her. On the flip side, Martha was surprised to see Robert again because apparently he had visited the museum a couple of days ago. Only Robert doesn't understand a word she was saying, but smartly, Robert asks Martha about his research he must have been conducting during his visit previously. Martha says when Robert was here previous time, he had been observing Dante's mask for hours. So Martha was taking them towards that mask, but when they reached there, they found that mask gone as if somebody had stolen them. Martha informs authorities about it and they check security footage where they found that Dante's mask was stolen by none other than Robert himself. By that time, police also gets information about Robert's whereabouts and they barge in the museum. Robert and Sienna locks Martha and try to escape from the museum, but before they go, Robert assures Martha that he will bring the mask back. Robert takes an ID of Martha and uses it to run away from back door, but museum was locked down. Robert surprisingly remembers all of the secret getaways of that museum. Now because of all of these incidences of theft of Dante's mask and everyone trying to catch Robert, Sienna becomes overwhelmed and suspicious again. Robert here tells her to go and appreciates her help so far, but Sienna volunteers her help because she knew what was at stake. She just wanted to make sure that she is on the correct side, which Robert definitely confirms. Now the main objective of them here is to get away from the museum, so they uses a secret passageway above the false ceiling, but Vayantha hears something and she also chooses to go find Robert there. And she attacks him and demands the pointer, which Robert refuses to hand over. Vayantha starts shooting on Robert in frustration, so Sienna attacks her from behind and Vayantha loses her balance and she falls from attic and she dies. She dropped down exactly where police were searching Robert and they see Robert through the broken ceiling. But as Robert knew the secret back door, he makes them reach to the open road. The very time they reach to the road, Robert remembers an address of Paradise 25 from the mail Ignacio had sent, and after a little investigation, Sienna informs Robert that there is a place named Paradise 25, so they were headed to that place. When they start their quick march towards Paradise 25, Agent Boucher spots them and he starts to follow them, but here is one more weird thing. Agent Boucher scraps his walkie-talkie and then follows them. It clearly means he wanted to be off-grid on this follow-up of Professor Robert. Robert and Sienna reached to the Paradise 25 and they found Dante's mask under the water. Behind that mask there was some kind of a message written which was nothing but the location of virus. Just a moment after that, Boucher arrives there and he introduces himself as a WHO official, but Robert doesn't recognize him. Agent Boucher helps him remember things and he asks about the last thing Robert remembers. Robert says he was around here a couple of days back with someone, but somebody kidnapped him and injected him with something. Now, as a reply, Boucher states that woman is none other than Elizabeth Sinsky, who is chief of World Health Organization. Now, Robert absolutely doesn't believe these facts because he knew Elizabeth for a long time. In addition to that, Boucher says he suspects Elizabeth as a corrupt official who is trying to sell the virus to the foreign governments for her own ambitions. Now guys, as I have told you before, Robert was having hard time believing these facts, but still they don't indulge this conversation further. Boucher now comes into interrogation mode and he asks if Robert had any lead regarding location of virus because he wants to stop this pandemic from happening. Robert tells him that Sienna and he thinks that the location is Venice, which is in Italy. Now Boucher takes them with him in a train to Venice, but at the same time he books 2 air tickets to Geneva to throw off other WHO officials. They get into train to Venice, but Robert was still suspecting a foul play and he fakes his migraine. Boucher goes to get him water and he tells Sienna the truth about what he is thinking about Agent Boucher. Now Sienna helps Robert knocking Boucher out and they run away from him. On the other side, looking at 2 tickets booked, Elizabeth was on to Geneva to catch Robert. But here Harry comes to talk to Elizabeth and he informs they wouldn't go to Geneva. Harry introduces himself as well as his little organization and its motive. He shows the video of Zobrist to Elizabeth and joins Elizabeth in this quest. According to the clue, Robert and Sienna reach to Venice, and when asked locals, they come to realize that they are in a wrong country. The actual location of this virus was Istanbul. While having this discussion, they spot Boucher coming over and they hide themselves and go underway of the museum only to find a dead end. Of course, Agent Boucher was following them. Robert helps Sienna climb to the window and with some outside help, Sienna gets out. But when Professor wanted to be out, she left him behind and reveals her true identity. She revealed that she knew Zobrist. In fact, she was a girlfriend of Zobrist and that Robert was actually wearing his clothes. She wanted the location of this virus so that she could release it, and that was the reason why she was using Robert in this quest. Robert tried to get out and follow her, but Agent Boucher comes there and he hit Robert and takes him to an unknown location. Here we viewers come to find out that Agent Boucher is not someone he was portraying. He actually wanted to sell the virus to foreign government by himself for his own ambitions. During these interesting revelations, somebody comes from back and stabs Agent Boucher and he dies. That someone was Harry. After seeing Harry, Robert was kind of scared, but when Harry introduces himself, he gets little comfortable with the situation. Harry explains all the weird situations and visions Robert had to face. He told him he was the one who has caused these hallucinations as well as these injuries. And to make Robert believe these hallucinations of hell, Harry also had administered some medications into Robert through an injection. In fact, even attack by Vayantha in the hospital on Robert was also artificial reality, and it was all part of this setup to execute the plan. Sienna was also part of the plan, but she had lied to Harry about the package and Harry did not know anything about virus, otherwise he wouldn't have executed such artificial reality. Harry just wanted to recover the biotube that Robert had, and that was the reason Vayantha was so aggressive on Robert. until the actual intentions of Zobrist were realized. Harry was carrying this plan, but later he has teamed up with Elizabeth and both of them now wanted to save the world by demolishing this heinous act. But while all of these things were happening, Syanna actually reached Istanbul and she met some of Zobrist's followers who also knew about the plan Zobrist had in his mind. They were also in help with Syanna to release the virus now. One of the followers informed Syanna that there are 2 bombs which they had to explode in a particular range around the virus to release it. Now Harry, Elizabeth as well as Robert with their whole WHO team reached to Istanbul and start their search of virus. Harry investigates and asks a local guy about sewer system where there will be underground water and lot of people as well. He directs him to a location where there is a highest possibility of virus to be kept hidden. They reach at one place where one musical program was ongoing and it was a beautiful place where all musicians were performing and their stage was designed over red water. WHO teams now confirms the virus location and with their virus protection suit, they start their search. After some time, Elizabeth finds the bag and she gets that bag in a concealed box to ensure its containment. But here, Syanna with Zobrist follower arrives and they try their best to execute the mission of releasing the virus. In the process, all of them even sacrifice themselves, but somehow Elizabeth and Robert ensure its containment and they hand it over to WHO team from where they would be taking the virus to Geneva to figure out what exactly needs to be done with that. Here we understand one thing, that a blind faith can make even intelligent people do stupid things. Here Syanna was thinking that she is saving the world by deploying the virus, but she was actually about to kill billions of innocent people for it. Thank God Robert and Elizabeth were successful in this quest. Later, we also see Robert returning the Dante's mask where it belonged. And with that return, movie ends here. So this was the story of Inferno and I hope you like it. And I recommend you to watch the movie as well because you will enjoy it. Tell me how do you like this explanation as well in the comment section and I will see you in the next episode. Bye.